She's won multiple awards and been recognized as one of the top chief financial officers in Kenya. What does it take to run the financial function of a multi-billion shilling organization? This week, we speak to Risper Genga, the CFO at EABL, to find out. This is She Means Business. I am your host, Claire Munde. Risper, you're a very decorated chief financial officer and you have won a lot of awards. Tell us, what has it taken to get you to where you are today?
Great. Thanks, Claire. I think my journey started with my career choice of studying BCom, and mostly it was because my dad said, it's really difficult. We're not sure, you can make it. And I looked at what are my natural strengths. I was good at maths, so BCom sounded like a good thing. Straight after, I got a scholarship to Strathmore, started doing CPAs, and I remember my dad borrowing 10,000 shillings just to be able to pay the balance of the part of the fees that wasn't covered by scholarship. So Strathmore really started my journey into accounting, and so I did my CPAs before going to University of Nairobi, where I did BCom accounting and started my career formally at KPMG. So I spent 9 years at KPMG, a great place to work, very good with people, excellent with training, and it was a very quick 9 years. And after 9 years, I always thought I wanted to be a partner, but the closer I got to it, the more I thought I needed to explore some more. And then discussions started with Barclays, and it was at the back of the financial crisis. They were looking at how to strengthen their risk management, and so they wanted to bring their audit function fully local. And so they were looking for somebody to head the region. Initially, it was to head Kenya. I wasn't really interested. Then when we had our first discussions, then they extended it to a regional head for East and West Africa. And that's how I moved into banking. So I spent 11 years with Barclays, initially 3 years in Kenya, covering East and West Africa. Then I moved to South Africa for 4 years, where I was having coverage of all the African countries. There were 10 of them. And before moving to take care of South Africa's retail and business banking, which was the biggest part of ABS's business. From there, I shifted into finance. I first did a stint in Mozambique on a project, and then I got an FD role, finance director role in Zambia. So again, I moved to Zambia, spent 4 years there, and at the end of my stint, I got a call. I really wanted to come back home. So I got a call from East African Breweries with an opportunity to come back as Chief Finance Officer at EABL, which is where I've been for the last 5 years. So that's sort of my journey. I think the pivotal moments were, one, just picking what I'm good at. Two, sticking with the growth. I think KPMG was great growth, both technically, interpersonally, and just broader growth in the early stages of my career. And then taking risks, moving countries, moving industries. So just picking up bold risks and seeing how I can land and grow with it.
Yeah. Well, and we'll talk a little bit more about risk, but you mentioned that the closer you got to becoming partner, the more you changed your mind. What caused that shift in your mindset?
Yeah, I think two things. One, at the time, risk became a big thing. In the Big Four, I think that's the time Andersen collapsed. And so there was a lot of focus on risk management. So when you got to partnership, then a lot of your work was on managing risk as opposed to working with teams, working with clients, which was the part that I enjoyed the most. And the other half of your job was selling, which I wasn't sure I enjoyed pitching for business. And if you know audit, it's a grudge purchase. So selling something so difficult to sell. I think for me, I weighed the proposition and I thought, maybe I also need to explore some more. But also secondly, I thought I'd only worked in one place doing different things, but in one firm. So I thought if I settled into partnership, that would be the rest of my life. So I thought, let me go out and explore, and if I still want partnership, you can always go back to it.
Okay, I'd like us to talk a little bit about, you had stints in different countries, and I've seen that a lot with a lot of women. They go out, they work, then they come back, and you said there was a point you wanted to come back.
Yes.
What was that like? And I'd like us to talk a little bit about work-life balance. Throughout this whole career outside the country, how are you balancing the work and your personal life? Because that was quite a number of years you were out.
Yes. So we're out 8 years in total, and I took my family with me. At the time, my eldest was 11, my youngest was 2. And my husband was working here as well in one of the multinationals. He's more of a marketing sales type. And he was doing well. But earlier in our marriage, we'd said that if we move, we're moving together. So when we did the maths, we said, okay, maybe it's time for him to take a break and we go and explore career growth down there and see what it has also to offer the kids in terms of more exposure and opportunities. So what then happened is my husband then left his job and became the trailing parent, which you see more, there are a lot of them, but I think we don't talk about them enough. So in those formative years, it was very important, particularly being in a new country, that one parent is more present. And my job was a lot of travel. So he took on that role. And which was good. I think when I look at our kids now, a lot of it was the time he put into investing in them, spending time with them, working with them through school and all the different things they were doing. So having that support system was great. At the same time, I had a long-time nanny who I then took with me to South Africa, enrolled her into college. So she was doing college and taking care of the kids. So it really helped to have that peace of mind and stability back home. Also in SA, people are big on balance. And I remember the first few months, at 6 p.m. I'd be the only person in the office. And it's a massive office, there's hundreds of desks, and you look up and you're alone because everybody has left. And that's because, you know, your domestic worker would leave at 5 p.m. The shops would close at 6 p.m. So if you're working beyond 7, you basically have no support. And also a lot of people had one parent drop the child and the other one pick the child. So there was quite a sense of balance. So I also learned there to question whether the long hours we're used to over here, are they really productive? And can I do more in my work day? And then when it's time to go, actually go home. Or if I need to carry work, then I can work much later. So I think the combination of an environment in which family and balance was valued, but also having a support system really made it possible to do those moves.
Wow. Yeah. And that whole idea of balance, you know, sometimes when people are climbing up the career ladder, they feel like, you know, you have to really put in a lot of hours. So what would you say to women who are also trying to really scale up the career ladder, but they feel like they have to put in that work, especially when they're balancing with children and their career? How do you balance it and feel like you're still productive? Because the reality is that sometimes some employers do not see, you know, that flexibility is not with every company. So how do women balance that?
I think it's twofold. I like to think of life as seasons. Because even when I'm big on balance, I know there are seasons where it's inevitable. There's a deadline, there's a board. You've got to put in the hours. Or you have a team that you're still building. They're not quite where you need them for it to fully function. So you're going to put in some extra hours. But my view is always to try and find that equilibrium where everybody works some normal time. Also not to glorify working long hours for the sake of it. I think sometimes there's that. Just to make sure you're as productive and effective as possible, that no one can question your work quality, but also that you're very disciplined. When it's time to work, you work and you deliver. You're not having coffee, gossiping with your friends, and you know, the time passes and then now you're under so much pressure, or you're taking off time you should be working, you're out doing other stuff. So I think it's a function of one, seasons, know where you are at and what is required, because if you miss that, you'll drop the ball. Secondly, it's about also being true to yourself. Am I delivering and delivering where I should be? And then thirdly, the support system, it makes all the difference.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about boards. You mentioned about that. You're in a number of boards. What does it take for someone to get on a board? And you know, there's this whole thing about service versus what are you getting out of it. So tell us about your experience within boards.
Yes, so I've been, initially in my roles in audit, I sat on boards, but as an independent observer, being the regional audit person. So coming onto boards, fortunately for me, was not a completely new experience. So I sit on the EABL board as an executive, which means I'm the one who's accountable, I'm the one who's reporting, and the independents, you know, they give challenge to me. I sit on APA and I&M as an independent. Now for those, first I think it is, I spent many years in financial service. So moving into manufacturing, it was important for me to keep my knowledge of financial services fresh, in understanding what's going on in the market, what are the big things coming up, and just keeping that side of me alive. One, because it helps me with my job, but also it's something I'm passionate about. Secondly, it was a giving back. The two companies are both really ambitious companies that are doing a lot in terms of strategic focus. So I could see a real opportunity where my input will actually add value. So to be a good board member, one, strategic focus. So thinking ahead, thinking into the future of this company, can you play a part in it, etc. Secondly, you must understand the numbers. A big part of boards is financial statements, accuracy, do they make sense? So that's something that you cannot miss to understand. Thirdly, it's your ability to collaborate. So sometimes you have a strong point of view, which you must express, but how do you then also listen to others? And if you still have a strong point of view, how do you resolve that matter? So it's working with people, but also making sure you have the flexibility to collaborate, to listen, and where you have a real concern, to still find a way to lobby and engage people to see the importance of what you're having. So it's been a give and take. There are a lot of experienced board members on those boards that I sit on, so I have the benefit of listening to them and learning, but it's also me bringing my perspective from a manufacturing sector, from a multi-country sector, from a governance perspective, so knowing my value as well.
Okay. Yeah. And you said you've always been a fan of the numbers and maths and all that, but would you say that there are some unique challenges that you've faced within your role in the finance sector that other women also face, or is it just the problems that people are faced are non-gender specific?
I think there are specific problems or challenges. So I think for me, one is there's a little bit of an unconscious bias. And I think I found this particularly when I'd moved into Barclays. And when I joined Barclays, I had my last born like the first year I joined. So I actually joined when I was expecting. They were very supportive around it. But in 3 years, I thought I'd build a team and I was ready for a move. And when I opened those discussions, I realized everybody I was talking to, in their minds, they were like, you just had a baby, mobility is not an option for you. But it took me saying that I'm ready for the next big thing, I'm ready for mobility, and what opportunities are there for me. So if you keep quiet, people will assume you can't move, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're not able to do 1, 2, 3, and you'll stay where you are. So I think for me it was verbalizing and asking and putting it out there that I am ready to move and I will make it work. So I think some of that is perceptions that will come with you being a woman, mother, or whatever other heart you carry, that there are limitations to the things you can do. I think secondly, this has changed over time, but when I started my first job, there was no maternity cover. The policy said it was self-inflicted, so sort yourself out. Now that's changed. I mean, maternity is a basic need, and companies like ours offer 6 months maternity leave, they offer paternity leave. So there's a lot more support now. So I do think we've made a lot of progress. The third thing is the likability. I call it the likability factor, where I think women are assessed by their ability to be liked a lot more. And sometimes we play to that. But when you're too likable, you're too nice, therefore you can't lead. And when you're not, you're a bit firm, you're emotional, or you're too hard. So you're always playing that very carefully, making sure you're building the relationships that see you for your credentials and not your likability factor, because it can work against you as well, but it always comes into play as well. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'd like us to talk a little bit about success. Mm-hmm. What does success mean to you?
I think for me, and I listened to Alan Kilavoka at the weekend telling his story, and he defines work as an assignment. And that really resonated to me, because beyond being a financial accountant, a CFO, I think it's about your leadership. It's about how you impact people. And if people come and go through you and their lives are not changed, then it's pointless. So for me, success is impact. It's impact that I leave on people that I work with. It's impact on organizations, and it's impact beyond my immediate sphere. So what do I do also for those who are upcoming? What do I do for those who are less fortunate? And for me, it's all about the word impact, but also secondly, about really building deep and meaningful relationships. Yeah.
Okay, and you're talking about that deep, meaningful relationships and mentorship. Tell me, what role has mentorship played in your own life?
Yeah, I think people get hung up on the word. I don't know that I've ever told someone, be my mentor. And actually, when I was part of more formal programs, I don't know that they were more effective than when I just learned from somebody and went and asked them for advice on something and support. So throughout my career, from very early on, there's been a range of leaders, both male and female, who've taken it upon themselves to grow me, to direct me, to open doors for me, to challenge me on the decisions I'm making. But it took one, a relationship that's meaningful, in which I also contribute to them, but two, asking, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? So I don't know that it's always been structured mentorship programs, but it's just tapping into people who have knowledge, skills, capabilities that I need to learn from, and making sure that I connect with them deliberately and learn from them. Yeah.
Okay. As we wrap up, I want us to switch gears a little bit. I want you to tell me, what's your current read?
My current read, I'm reading a book called Range, and Range is about generalists, how generalists triumph in a world where sometimes we assume that specialists have more strength. So it really challenges some of the conventional thinking around being a specialist compared to a generalist. It's a very deep book. It looks like Tiger Woods versus Roger Federer. Tiger Woods was from age 3 playing golf. Roger, whilst his mom was a tennis coach, he explored very many different things before he landed on tennis. And it just gives me that confidence that knowing you can know a lot about many things, or you can know a little about many things and a lot about one thing. And I think for me, it's the a lot about many things that makes you a more holistic leader. So that's a great read I'm having right now.
Okay, yeah. And who's on your current playlist?
I am very disloyal when it comes to music. Half the time I don't know who's singing it, and then get dissed by my children. So yeah, I'm an equal opportunity lover of any and all kinds of music.
Okay, yeah. And you have the warmest smile, a really nice white smile. What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? I think people, yeah. And again, it's back to me, it's impact. Warm relationships with my kids and my husband, that makes me happy. Good relationships with the people I work with, that I've supported or helped somebody in some way, that I've given back, that makes me happy.
Okay, yeah. And as we wrap up, I'd like you to just speak to the camera, women who are coming up in their careers. What's that one tip you would give them?
There's a lot of tips, but I think the biggest one for me is there's no substitute for knowing what you're doing. So invest in the knowledge, invest in the learning, invest in the growth, because that's foundational. And if you miss the foundation, then really there's nothing to build on top of that. You can be good at relationships, you can speak well, but if your foundations are weak, then you're going to struggle at some point. So invest in your foundation.
Awesome, thank you. You've heard it from Risper Genga, the CFO at EABL. Invest in your foundation and don't be afraid to speak up. This has been She Means Business. I've been your host, Claire Munde. Until next time, have a good one.